Welcome to Be the Light 365. I'm Pastor Jay. Today we're going to talk about James chapter 4, verses 13 through 15. Come now, you who say, today or tomorrow we will go to such and such city, spend a year there, buy and sell, and make a profit. Whereas you do not know what will happen tomorrow, for what is your life? It is even a vapor that appears for a little time and then vanishes away. Instead, you ought to say, if the Lord wills, you shall live and do this or that. But now you boast in your arrogance. All such boasting is evil. I went ahead and read chapter 16 with it because I left it out. But what it's talking about here is that we have sometimes that we're going to go do something and it's not God's will. We have a tendency to boast about stuff and it's not right. You know, we ought to know what God's will, and we don't know the mind of God, so God's always got different plans than us. We can talk that we're going to go this way, we're going to do that, but in the end, God makes decisions on everything we do. He said he guides a man's footsteps. So in this here is talking about that today or tomorrow that we want to go do something. Well, why don't we talk to God first? Find out what God has in store for us, what God wants us to do. Or we come to God when we want to do something. It's like he's your biggest investor. He invests in you because he has a lot invested in you because you're one of his children. And he wants the best for you. So we have to come to God and say, look, God, what do you want us to do on this? What do you have in store for us? Should we go do this or should we go do that? We need to put it in front of God and let God answer that question first. Because any deal we make, business, job changes, everything, God needs to be in it. And we don't put God in it. Matter of fact, we do it and jump out there sometimes when we find out that it wasn't the right decision, and then we want to blame God because he's not helping us. Well, God doesn't want you to do some of this stuff. He wants you to do his will. And you think, well, that's kind of selfish, but no, God gives you a will of your own to make these decisions. But who you want to follow, you or God? How is the you working out? That's what I always say. How is the you working out? Well, I always get the same answer, not very good. Well, that's because you're not putting God first. You're putting yourself before God. You're your own idol sometimes. And that's the problem we always have when we're coming to God. We're saying, well, God, I want to worship you, but I want to do my own will. Well, the I wills is what got Satan in trouble. And we don't want to be there. We don't want to be in that trouble. We don't want to be ahead of God. We want to put him first. When we make a decision, make sure God's in it. When you decide something, make sure God's in it. Because you don't want to be without him because he's there to help you. He's not there to tell you what to do. He suggests what you should do. Or he knows God knows what the finishing outcome is going to be. So why would you want to do something that you know that God says, well, you're going to wind up broke doing this? Then he's going to be, I don't want you in this. And you're going to go ahead and do it anyways. And the problem is, and we do most time, do it anyways. Well, James chapter 5 says to know sin, know to do something's wrong, that's sin. In other words, if you know you're going to do something and you know that it's not right, then it's sin. And that's what we do sometimes. We sin in different ways. God's not always putting his finger on top of us and pressing us down. He's trying to help us. And today, this is what this is about. In other words, ask God. Well, you don't know if tomorrow. You don't even know if you're going to be here next year. No one knows the end because he says your life is a vapor. In other words, you could be here tomorrow and then the next day gone. Or you could be here the next 50 years. I've heard people say, well, I'm ready to go. God can take me. Who's in their later years. And it'd be 10, 20 years later before God takes them because they had a purpose. Everybody has a purpose. God has a purpose for everybody. He has a plan for everybody, is what he says. So we want to do God's purpose. So I hope you learned something today. If you have any comments, just comment about it and we'll go through it. Like I said, I just know if you put God first, it always works out. When I put me first, it never works out. So let's put God first. Let's keep marching forward and doing the right thing. Hope you have a blessed day. Thank you.